Oh my god, what am I doing? Hello, good morning. My name is Desi-Rae. Welcome to Just Thinking Out Loud. I have been wanting to do this video for a while now and I haven't gotten around to it, but I'm glad to say that I can start today. It's a topic that I initially had some difficulty even reading about and finding information about, but today is a good day to talk about it. It has been dramatically gray for the past few days up in the northeast, which is pretty typical of it, but today it is blue and sunshiny, and that's really nice. And the birds were chirping this morning and I was in sort of a weird mood because my stomach was being funny, but then I went outside and then I was like, oh well, it's kind of silly to not appreciate the beauty of the outside. So I'm going to talk about race and IQ today. I am not a professional. I will never be a professional. I also don't have tons of money lying around, so I tried to find the information that was free and comprehensive. So I found someone's literature review. It was compiled by Dr. I believe his first name is Arthur Jensen and Dr. Philip Rushton. The title of it was 30 Years of Research in Race Differences in Cognitive Abilities. It was published in by the American Psychological Association in the Journal of Psychology, Public Policy, and Law. And the first thing that was interesting about the paper was that they were not trying to establish what the average IQs were in different populations by race, but they were trying to establish whether the debate is whether or not it is hereditary, meaning is it partly influenced by genetics, not completely, or if it is environmental. So I mean, I never really thought about IQ before, but they already know that there are different IQs between the races. So in terms of the actual IQs, it's a paper published in 2005, so the data is a bit old, and they were looking primarily just for the establishment of the IQs. They were looking primarily at different factors. There were a few different factors, but the first one was based on the data found in the bell curve by Charles Murray. It was published in 1994, and that, I don't know where he got his data from, and I'll talk about that more later. And so that established that, you know, the average IQ, so not everybody, the average IQ of blacks in America was 85. For Latinos, it was 89. For whites, it was 103. For Asians, 106. And for Jews, 113. So this is an average. I apologize if this offends anyone. Also, the terms that I know that personally, a lot of these groupings here, like, I don't even identify with this, but just speaking biologically, I know the terms. It's sort of hard to find the exact term that everybody feels comfortable with. So I apologize if I'm offending anybody. So they had that, and then they were looking at data. Oh, that data was based on a 12-year longitudinal study done tracing a cohort of individuals from about age 17 to their late 20s and early 30s. And so that's how they found that data out. I'm gonna put links to this, and I am slightly butchering this because I'm driving and also because I'm not an expert. So something else, the other things that they were looking at included testing for the G factor, which is tested specifically for problem solving ability. That is, as opposed to if you have a learned body of knowledge that you can draw from in order to solve problems. It's like if you're faced with new information, how do you take the data and put it in with what you already know, and then make a decision based on that. And there was a line in the paper that I thought was really nice. It said that everyday life was, and basically an IQ test, and I was like, haha, that's pretty true. There were other things they looked at, including brain volume and how that relates to IQ. I thought that was really interesting. They were talking about how brain volume is correlated with the number of, I don't know why that car just did that, with the number of synapses and neurons in the brain. And they also looked at reaction times, which is also correlated with IQ. And I kind of wanted to put this bit in there. I kind of wanted to be a neurologist when I was younger, so this part of it sort of interests me. And they were also looking at biological difference, which I didn't really know about. That was also very interesting and totally not offensive. They were talking about how the gestation period for blacks, well, all the things I'm talking about, blacks are, I guess, it goes in a general order from blacks, the categories I listed before, blacks to Asians, well, blacks to Latinos, to whites, to Asians, to Jews. And yeah, so they're talking about blacks having a shorter gestation period, and they were also talking about how blacks have more twinning. And I didn't know that bone development is faster. I think they also talked about sexual maturity. They also went on to talk about more social factors, such as sexual permissiveness and law abidance and being cautious. And I thought those things were very interesting. And I guess they're trying to model different groups based on how well they conform to socially desired, like socially valued traits. And I know it might not sound nice, but like, I've traveled a bunch, and like even little things like driving, depending on the communities I'm driving in, people are a lot more aggressive there. There are other things which I'm going to talk about later. So I guess it's not really nice to talk about it, but it makes sense. And like, even if they have this paper that like puts it down in data, if you just walk around the world, you can see this sort of stuff yourself. So they also looked at trying to control for environmental factors in twin studies, and they also looked at transracial adoption. And then the first thing that they looked at was the international pattern of IQ tests. And there's a theory that, not the theory, it's established that the income of different countries or how developed they are, it is correlated with the average IQ within that country. So that's sort of me brushing past information. If you're even listening to this, you probably already have an idea of all of this, because the topic interests you, maybe morbidly, or sort of like, oh, I don't really want to look at this, but it's interesting anyway. So while I was reading this paper, I am a biased person, and I don't really like the idea of persons having this idea about this group of people that I don't really identify with, but that I'm a part of, even if I don't identify with them. And I kept asking myself, why is this important? Why do you have to link IQ to race? Why not just talk about how having a higher IQ correlates to later on in life persons having more socially desirable outcomes, which includes not dropping out of school and being successful, that sort of stuff. And I know, like, looking on who the persons were and I did some more background research on how they were funded. Maybe in the past they were trying to push an agenda, they probably still are, but I think in the present it's really, really important, just because of how everybody everybody is just angry with everybody else because they're not seeing certain groups, especially in America, mostly black people, do very well compared to other groups in society. And now we know, well, the data is out there and nobody's talking about the data, which is that it's not necessarily dependent on race, but it is dependent on IQ, how well people do in society. And I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist. I'm not saying that maybe you walk into someone's office and they don't want to hire you because they don't like your skin color, and they don't even know you, and I think that's bad, but I can't control other people. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but if these things are true, then you have to change the discourse of discussion in society about what is happening between these groups, and this whole blame game that is going on right now. And quite frankly, it makes me very sad because it's well, not very sad, but it bothers me because I see people just being manipulated to hate other groups of people that they don't even know, and have opinions about groups that they don't even know. And I think that's really wrong. And I guess I don't really like talking about it, but I hope that people can start to wake up to that information. So that's why it's important, when you have laws in place, affirmative action, or when you can't talk about criminality in certain groups of people because it's just offensive. But you have to talk about it, not necessarily on the individual level, when you meet someone, you have a problem with that, but just in terms of shaping public policy. The rule should be, if you want to have a government in the first place and have some people put laws in place and some people enact those laws, the rule has to be that the same standard applies to everyone. That is the rule. Not that some people end up getting in trouble more, but that the same standards have to apply to everyone, or else you cannot have a society where people trust each other, and you cannot have a society where there is resentment, and you cannot have a society where people get along, and you cannot have a society where people only see character, which is what I would like, and nothing to do with how you look. I know we're visual creatures, and you have to sort of, just in terms of race, because I know it's possible just because of where I come from. I know people say no, it's not possible, blah blah blah, but I think it's possible just because of how little I thought about this growing up. So that's why it's important. And I don't think we can start moving towards a society that most people, I think, want until people acknowledge that stuff. So more of my personal response to this, I did feel a twinge of satisfaction when I read that Dr. Rushton and Dr. Jensen had both died. I know that's horrible. I know that's really bad, but I did, just because I just have a problem with, I have friends, I grew up, my peers, and the people I really interact with, most of whom are black. They're very competent in what they do. They're pretty ambitious. They're pretty intelligent. And even though I know walking down the road in New York City, I'm most likely to get pissed off by black people hitting on me in a disrespectful way. I know it's not just because I'm black and maybe they feel comfortable, also having spoken to other people about it. Because of that, I also know that, my father or my brother, I have two brothers, my brothers, or just my peers, they're not like that. And I know that I wouldn't want, them to go out into the world and be experiencing blowback for things that they did not do. And that's just the problem that I have with these categories. It's yes, in terms of understanding why what is happening in society is happening, that is important. But in terms of just interacting with people, I don't know, it really bothers me, because what about the people who are in that overlap more on the lower or the higher ends. You know, the people who, let's say for Asians, who maybe are on the lower end, they are perceived with they have the benefits of the perception of being on the higher end, even if they are not, just because their group is known for something. And I guess it's just, I feel like the individual is being sacrificed. You know, it's like that is the problem that I have with it. But that is more interpersonal relations, and you know, I do feel if you have a certain mindset, you would, even if you found this information out, it wouldn't change how you feel about that sort of stuff. But that's just my thoughts on that. And then one more thing that it really, really, really made me think about, and I was like, was that I believe it was Kierkegaard who talked about the gaze of other people and how the gaze can define someone else, like you are defined in someone else's gaze, and how we are both the subject and the object. And I know personally, I want to feel like I am creating my own story, and that I am the person, I am a person acting in the world, rather than someone else sort of looking from the outside and telling me who I am. So I think that is like what it really comes down to, and what really bothers people is to say, you do not tell me who I am, I tell you who I am, or you allow me to become who I am going to be. So I think I think that's where it really comes down to, is allowing people to become who they are. But yes, this data is important. I think that is pretty much all I have to say about it for the moment. One more thing I want to say is that if people have a problem with the data, I know there are some criticisms of their methodologies, but I think the only thing that can satisfy people would be more data. I don't know, I really like the idea. I'm not saying this is true. I really like the idea that people can shape their destiny, their path, and the way I was raised and the way people around me were raised, it is you do your best. That's all you can do. You do your best. And so I think that the reason why this information is important is really just to stop people from feeling like everybody hates them, everybody's trying to keep them down. But at the same time, I don't want it to have this sort of deterministic factor, like you can't do anything, because I really feel like people are able to achieve great things if they believe in themselves. And I don't know, maybe it's just my experience that people are so capable, but I know, like my mother, she came from a very, 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 compared to what people would call here, very, 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 very poor family. And she got a scholarship and she was really smart, so I guess it sort of lends itself to the IQ theory. So maybe I shouldn't bring that up. But I feel like people have to have the belief that they can in order to see that they can. So I wanted to say that. And I didn't finish the thought about my friends who are very intelligent. A lot of them tell me that they come here to the US, most other places no, and they interact with people who automatically think that they're superior to them. And like I said, I feel like if that mindset that you're gonna think those things anyway, I don't really think data is going to change that. I think people remain pretty constant. So I also have a problem with that as well. That's it. I hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe. I am trying to keep up with the videos. I work on a boat and I disappear, and I also it's mostly that. So I have all this time in between where I can't really do anything. but I hope to get better over time. And thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope it was useful, and have a nice day.